Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So I thought I would be done this pass by the time I got to this session, but yeah, I got super busy. I had a whole bunch of holiday baking to do and other stuff came up. So yeah, I did not really get much done since I last stitched with you all, and I have 475 stitches left in this pass. So yeah, I'm not going to make that today. So I say by next session, I will probably be on the next pass, but I mean, who knows? I thought it would be by this session, so yeah. Yeah. Turned out the computer that I got did not have enough storage. We didn't check before we bought it, and so my husband had to swap out a different hard drive. He had to clone my hard drive, swap it out for a bigger one, and yeah, it was a whole bunch. I had to reinstall a whole bunch of my programs, and I had to copy my music over again because it looked as if it was there, but I said the files were basically hollow. The names and everything were there, but if you tried to play anything, it would say that, oh, it could not find it. Do you want to search for it? And yeah, it wasn't anywhere actually on the hard drive, so that was a pain. Yeah, and like I said, it's on my iTunes, but a lot of my collection, at least I would say 75% of it, is stuff that was on CDs that I loaded onto my computer, and so I can't just download it. So I actually looked into once to see if you could somehow store those kind of files that you bought, not through iTunes, like in your cloud, but they would charge you a whole bunch, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. My whole point of buying something on a CD was that I pay for it once and I don't have to pay for it again, so yeah. Yeah, they keep trying to force me to go to stream, keep saying, get 3 free months and all this stuff, and I'm like, nope. I prefer to buy my music, and then I can listen to it as many times as I want without having to pay for it more. I know that's why they want to push you to stream it, because then you have to pay for it forever, right? A subscription. And sure, maybe it's like, whatever, $10 a month, but you know, that does add up, right? And especially if it's $10 a month on this subscription and $10 a month on that subscription and $15 a month on that subscription, you know, it does add up quite quickly if you're not careful. So yeah, I said, and I'm someone who, I like to listen to stuff over and over. So because I was asking a friend, I said, like, do you find it's worth it? And they said, well, I like to listen to like thousands and thousands of different songs, so to buy each one would cost them a lot. I'm thinking, okay, that's true. I'm someone who tends to have a more niche bunch of songs that I like and then just put them on shuffle forever. So yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, it's like I said, I was busy. I had a whole bunch of holiday baking to do. We made our gingerbread house. My husband wants me to make a second batch of gingerbread to take to work when they have their potluck, because everybody loves it. I think I've made it 3 or 4 years in a row for everyone, and yeah, they always request it. It's another one of those, I'm happy to share the recipe, but people always say that it's still better when I make it, so who knows, right? Yeah, because I had the same thing with, I have a lemon bar recipe that I didn't come up with. I found it in an old magazine from, oh, sheesh, like the 70s or something. Yeah. And, but it's delicious. And every time I bring it to somewhere, people always request that the next time they're having a get together, oh, are you going to make lemon bars? Yeah. Although I made a mistake because I finally went through my recipe collection, which is mostly like pages torn out of magazines and stuff in page protectors. And I actually typed them up and uploaded them to my Google Drive, because I said that way, if there was ever a fire, you know, knock on wood that doesn't happen, but if there ever was, I wouldn't lose those, because some of them, like, they're not replaceable. I have no idea what magazine they came from. You know, it's obviously way long out of print, and I doubt even if you contacted the printer, they could even get it for you, right? There's a little knot on here, so I'm just gonna tack this to the back to force the knot to the other side. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Yeah, like I doubt they could even get it for you, so yeah. And I also said then to my son that when you one day move out on your own, I could email you a copy of all the favorite recipes. Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people get very possessive of their recipes, but I'm of the thinking that, I mean, unless it's like for business and it's proprietary and, you know, you signed an NDA or something, to my thinking, recipes should be shared. Good food should be shared, you know? And because you hear all the time of, oh, my grandma made this amazing whatever it was, and she never gave anyone the recipe. And so when she passed away, nobody knew how to make it anymore. And, you know, I would hate for something like that to happen. You know, I would like loved ones to be able to recreate something they loved that I made, you know, after I'm gone. So, yeah, I believe in sharing. But it's funny because I've had a few people say they tried my lemon bar recipe and it wouldn't set. And it's the same recipe I use. And I said, and I've made it in multiple different ovens because we moved a lot. And, you know, often you leave those appliances with the house, or we were renting. And so, yeah, I made it in, you know, 5 or 6 different ovens, and it always turned out, so not a problem. I said, I think they must have not been baking it quite long enough, because when I typed up my copy, I accidentally typed the wrong amount of time to cook it. And so I made it a couple times and it didn't set, and I went, what the heck? You know, I've been making these for like over 20 years, never had a problem, and all of a sudden it's not setting. And then I went, oh, wait a minute. I'm working from the one I typed up. I went back and looked at my original, went, oh, yeah. I was saying to bake for 20 minutes, the topping. You had to bake it for 23 to 25 minutes. So that was what, yeah, those 3 minutes made all the difference. I was starting to go through, like, did I miscount the number of eggs I put in? No. You know, I didn't change anything else. I thought I had miscounted the eggs one time because I was throwing the shells out afterwards and I only found the shells for 3 eggs. And I'm like, I could have sworn I cracked 4 eggs. It calls for 4. Thinking, okay, maybe that's why it didn't set. But then later, I was cleaning up my food processor and discovered one of the shells got stuck in the chute, the push thing. And I was like, okay, so I did crack 4 eggs. I knew I had. But yeah, then I was like, okay, but if I did put the right number of eggs in there, why didn't it set? You know, and yeah. So we ate them anyway. They were just kind of soupy in the middle. Oh. But yeah, I have since figured out what my error was. Yeah. I have to go through those recipes and proofread them again because there's a couple of mistakes I made. I wrote tablespoon instead of teaspoon, and my gingerbread recipe, I accidentally wrote ginger twice instead of cinnamon for one of the spices. So yeah. So I say now I'm kind of testing the ones that I wrote up and working from that one that I typed up to make sure everything is actually correct. So yeah, just all the old favorites. Plus, there's some recipes I've found that like I've tweaked over time and made little notes on the paper, but yeah. It's always a good idea to have a backup digital copy, right? Yeah, so. Yeah, it's funny. I keep the stuffed page protectors so you can, you know, easily wipe it off if you spill stuff on it. Anyway, I left one too close to the heating element and the plastic melted. And anyway, later I was looking for that recipe and my fingers touched the melted plastic and went, oh, it's this one. I pulled it out and then I looked at it and no, it was a different recipe. Apparently I had melted 2 different page protectors. dear. Yeah. Well, that was like 1 year for Christmas. My sister gave our mom flame-proof oven mitts because she was always setting hers on fire by leaving them too close to the stove element and stuff. And yeah, mom was not amused, but I was like, well, it's a good practical gift, you know? Yeah. Years ago, I got myself the silicone oven mitts. They're like lined with softer material inside, but they're silicone on the outside. Yeah, those would be pretty hard to melt. Yeah, I actually got them because I was doing canning, and instead of a jar lifter, I had this big sort of holder of jars to lower them in the water, and obviously I didn't want to risk my hands accidentally dipping into the boiling water, so yeah. I got, or getting splashed by it, so yeah. I bought the silicone ones. Now, I said they're better than cloth because I bought those, oh sheesh, like 15 years ago, and they're still going strong. And yeah, I had some cheap cloth ones that my mother-in-law gave me, and they died within like a year or so. Yeah. But yeah, my husband bought me a little fire extinguisher for our kitchen, and thankfully I have never had to use it yet. But, you know, it's always a good idea to have one. You never know. Yeah. I did have one time, actually. My son was just a toddler, and I was preheating the oven, and then, of course, it, you know, made its beep sound to let me know it had reached the proper temperature. And I come into the kitchen, and my son's like 2, and he's standing there staring through the oven window, just like totally mesmerized. And I'm like, what the heck? There's nothing in there. So I go look, and the bottom element had somehow, like the little feet that held it up had gotten flipped underneath, so it was actually touching the very bottom of the stove. And the burnt on food there had caught on fire. So there's this little flame in there. And my son had never seen fire before. So he was just standing there totally, you know, mesmerized by it. I was like, oh, shoot. You know, and I thought, well, I could use a fire extinguisher, but I mean, they make a big mess. You don't want to do that for a flame that's, you know, tiny little candle flame size. So I thought, okay, I know what I'll do, baking soda. So yeah, I said I put the fire extinguisher nearby in case when I opened the door, it flared up from like, you know, fresh air rushing in. And then I had a little spoonful of the baking soda, and as soon as it opened, I threw it in there, and that snuffed it right out immediately. So yeah, as they said, like it produces it's carbon dioxide immediately, so that, yeah, that puts it out right away. So it did not flare up. Yeah, I moved my son back out of the way, and then quickly opened it, tossed that in, and yeah, that destroyed it. But I was like, well, I guess it's time to clean my oven. I've been putting that off, but yeah, when it catches on fire, it's past due. Yeah. Yes, and speaking of cleaning ovens, a PSA, they said don't use the self-clean feature. Yeah. I was reading an article about it, and they said that basically it heats it up to super, super hot, so it's supposed to dry everything out, so it's supposed to be easy to just, you know, brush it out, scrape it off easily. But they said it heats it so high it can actually damage itself, and it can produce smoke that sets off your smoke alarm, which obviously you don't want, and it can actually, depending on what's dried on there, it can produce toxic fumes that you don't want to be breathing in. So yeah, they said yes, it has that feature, but honestly, there were fire chiefs and stuff saying don't use it because they can cause a fire from getting so hot or damage the oven. And yeah, even though it kind of sucks, you know, take the time to actually clean it yourself. Oh, I said it's kind of like I've had things that had Teflon coating that say they're dishwasher safe. I learned the hard way, no, they're not. Yeah. They may claim they are, but it flakes off and wears off way faster if you put it in the dishwasher, so just don't. Yeah. it's still best to wash it by hand with a soft sponge or plastic brush. Yeah, nothing that's too, you know, too abrasive, because that will just take it off. Although I don't use Teflon stuff as much anymore. I discovered ceramic lined fry pans, and I really liked those. Yeah, I found they last better than my old Teflon ones did. And they're not too terribly more expensive. So yeah, it was worth it. So, okay, so I can see that this kind of makes a circular here. So I'm going to kind of, yeah, work around sort of in radiating stripes around it the way I often do. Although, let's see, maybe sort of work my way towards it still slowly. Kind of, yeah. I hate when that happens. The needle was on, but now it came off. Okay. Yeah, so we're right at the edge there. So we are getting close to having this completed. Yeah, so there's kind of another more petals that way. So I'm kind of doing the petals that go this way, and then I'm going to fill that in. Maybe not during this session, but obviously, eventually it will get filled in. Yeah, like I said, I really thought I'd have this done, but in the last few days between last session and this one, yeah, just got super busy. Oh, that's what I always say is holiday preparations tend to take up some of the time. So yeah, time that I normally would have spent stitching ends up being spent, yeah, on those things. Not that I'm complaining. I absolutely love Christmas. Yeah, always have. I never grew out of it. My husband doesn't mind it, but he's not as into it as I am. But yeah, I look forward to it all year. Okay. So I may use separate threads. I do have a thread part further down of this color, so yeah, for the moment I'll just divide this color up. I'll probably travel down, back up, and again with the same strand is what I'm loosely planning in my head, which of course may change as I stitch. It often does. Yeah, it kind of worked out because to make the royal icing to assemble the gingerbread house, you need egg whites. So I had egg yolks left over, which was perfect because I have a recipe for chocolate butter cookies that calls for egg yolks, not whole eggs. So yeah, worked out perfectly. I saved the yolks for the next day, and then I used those in the baking. So yeah, sometimes what I do is instead I'll just save the extra yolks and then make scrambled eggs with extra yolks. So, but they can get quite rich when there's a lot of, yeah. When I was a kid one time, we had this carton of eggs, and 8 out of the 12 had double yolks. Yeah, I don't know if like they were all set aside and then they sold them, because like that'd be quite the coincidence, right? Because I remember learning in cooking class, they do a procedure called candling, where the eggs, after they've been washed and everything, they go over a light that shines through them to catch any ones that are bad. And so I'm guessing that when they do that, they could probably see which ones have more than one yolk in them, would be my guess. So, yeah. They set them aside, and I don't know why. They were kind of all grouped together. But yeah, my dad made scrambled eggs with that for Sunday brunch, and oh my goodness, we almost couldn't eat them. They were way too rich. Yeah, with that many extra yolks. Like 1 or 2 is okay, but yeah, when it's like, you know, 8 egg whites versus 16 egg yolks, yeah, that gets pretty darn rich. Yeah. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. Yep. Meant to grab this one. No prob. Got that fixed. Yeah, they call it candling even though there's no candles involved, right? It's funny how technology changes, but the language doesn't so much. A lot of times, yeah. Like we still say roll down the window even though, you know, cars haven't been made with hand cranks in quite a while, you know. It's all electric power windows now. But yeah, I remember the first time we got a car with power windows. That was a big deal. Power locks, power windows, power steering, yeah. And then my mom kept making us sick for the first month because she wasn't used to the power steering, so she would oversteer. Yeah, because she was used to her old car that didn't have it. Yeah. Yeah, my mom is so small. She had to sit with a big cushion under her and one behind her. And when she went to shoulder check as kids, we actually had to duck over so that she could see the blind spot, because otherwise, yeah, she's so short that our heads were blocking the way. Ugh. Yeah, so I had people call me short. I'm like, yeah, you ain't seen nothing yet. I'm still taller than my mom. Who she says she's 5 feet, but she's like 4'11" now. Yeah, and I ain't exactly that tall myself. Only 5'3", so... I said I was always the shortest kid in my class, so it is always weird to me when I'm actually taller than another adult. Yeah. And I have friends online, so, you know, I don't know how tall they are until they sort of had a joke, like they had this tag yourself, and they had, you know, Hobbit is 5 feet and smaller, and, you know, all these different, and which ones are you? And then I always say, oh, I always assume everybody is taller than me until, you know, proven otherwise. I was quite surprised because some of my friends that I don't know, for some reason I thought were tall, turned out to be shorter than me. So, okay, I'm going to check this one here. Okay. This one here. Yeah, they're both medium length. So I'm going to travel this top one upwards. And actually, the bottom one will just travel to that other strand, and I'll probably tie it off there. Yeah, like I remember one time I was shopping and they had, you know, signs to ask for help to get stuff off the top shelf if you can't reach it. And I had to ask for help. And then I felt bad because I had to ask somebody. And turns out the employee was shorter than I was, you know. But yeah, you know, they're the ones who are supposed to be allowed to get ladders. You're not supposed to do it yourself because, yeah, liability issues, right? If you climb the ladder and fall off, they don't want to be on the hook for your injuries, right? So, yeah. I had a couple times I wanted something, I had to kind of jump up and knock at it with something else to get it to fall down. It's like I could ask, but I feel bad bugging taller people to help me, you know? They came to get their own stuff, not to be my assistant, right? But it's funny because, yeah, my husband, he's taller than me, so... Like, there was one time I was in the kitchen, straining for this mixing bowl, and he stands behind me and just grabs it, you know, without even stretching. I'm like, yeah, thanks a lot, you show off. Yeah, I said, short people problems, cooking can turn into a workout because you have to keep climbing up on the counters or on chairs to get stuff that you can't reach from the top cupboards. I actually saw online someone had designed a kitchen where between the cupboards there was actually a little ladder that folded up and slid between, and then you could slide it out and stuff, which I thought was kind of cool. But then part of me went, yeah, but then like food will fall in there and it would get gross to clean up. Yeah. Like I said, I kind of like the idea, but yeah, I'm thinking about like, I would spill, especially like liquids, right? If I spill them and they go down there, that would be really nasty to have to clean it up and sticky. And I can picture the things, you know, you pull them out and put them back enough, they'll probably break. So yeah, I'm just like, no, I'll just keep an extra little step stool. Okay, so put that there. Okay, yeah, so that's the bottom there. So yeah, I can see they're starting to stripe around this way again. And that is what I'm going to, again, follow with my stitching. Okay. Oh my. Pardon me. Yes, less than 400 stitches, and this pass will be done. Woohoo! Yeah, I see. I hope that by next session I will be on the beginning of the next pass. So that'll be 5 down and 4 to go. And we're more than halfway because the first 2 passes were an extra 10 rows. And the very last pass is 58 rows instead of 60. So it'll go a little quicker. Not a ton, but a little bit. That's like 1,000 stitches less for that pass. So it's, yeah, not a huge amount, but it is still, you know, somewhat. Okay, so again, I have 2 threads parked. Let me just make sure I'm looking at the right ones. One here. All right. And one here. Okay, they're both fairly long, so yeah. We'll just use both. I may tie off one. Later, it will just, we'll see what happens. All right, so all of these here, I'm going to, move them out of my way. Yeah, because I said I'm following this kind of shape here as it appears. Cutting it off there. So yeah, this is the final column here. So I will be drawing my ends across the back at this point, rather than pin stitching so that they don't potentially show past the edge of the design. Because yeah, when I frame these, I usually leave about 1 inch in between the design and the frame, so yeah, you want to make sure there aren't any tails showing there. And then when I'm done, pardon me, the whole thing, I will always flip it over, double check that there's any that are showing past, and yeah, either trim those or tuck them in. Usually there aren't very many, but there's always the occasional 1 or 2 that get away from you. Okay, so yeah, I remember I have 2 strands. it may need to reset soon because these needles are starting to get tangled. Oh my. And, oh dear. This is very rare that this happens, I find. I've had it happen maybe 3 or 4 times. The entire time I've been stitching with parking that it got stuck badly enough I had to cut it, but yeah, like I said, it's really rare, and it's like I only lost about ½ an inch of floss, so it's really no big deal. Wow, that one is really stuck. The eye of this needle might be getting rough. Yeah, sometimes that I find generally my needles don't break, they wear out. When the eye of the needle starts getting rough, it starts shredding the floss, and yeah. Then I know it's time to, oh my gosh, there we go. Then yeah, it's time to replace it. Yeah, I think I go through about 20 needles a year, I would say. Yeah, because I bought a tube of 100, and after 5 years I had to buy another, so might even be less because I didn't exactly count how many were in the tube, and they have said, there's people who have said that they counted and they only got like 86 or something, because I'm guessing they sell it by weight, so yeah. But yeah, so I don't use a lot of needles. Like I use multiples, but to actually discard them, I maybe discard, you know, 1 or 2 a month. It's not a lot. Okay, so I did these. Now this I can pin stitch because it's still in the second column from the edge, and obviously below it I can pin stitch as well because that is not the bottom of the design, it's just the bottom of this pass that I'm working across, so no problem. Okay, 101. Yeah, and I did some knitting too. So last time cross stitching, I am almost halfway through knitting squares for the blanket I'm making. I'm gonna make it 20 quilt block squares. So 4 by 5 squares is what I think the size is gonna be. So yeah, I'm just finishing up square number 10. So, but I also have to count the fact that after I've knit them all, I have to sew them all together, and I also have to work the border. So, yeah. But again, that's not a project I have a deadline for, so yeah, it will be done when I'm done. Yeah, so I don't think I'm gonna make my reading goal this year. I still have like 8 books to go, so I do have some novellas lined up, but even with that, yeah, I don't think I will. That'll be the first time since like 2012 that I didn't, but oh well. Yeah. I don't know. Some of it's been luck. Like I said, I don't finish everything I start. If I get bored, I don't force myself to keep reading. So, because none of it's required reading. So, yeah. So like I say, if I could count all the sort of half-finished books, then I would definitely have made my goal, but I don't count those. I only count books that I complete. So yeah, some of it I say is luck. If I went through some kind of, slump where I just could not find anything that would keep my attention, then yeah. Yeah, somebody had an idea, said, I would love a magic book that, like, whenever you opened it, it would be the exact right story that you want to read at that time, so then no more reading slumps. I'm like, okay, yeah, that would be awesome. As they said, reading slumps are the worst, especially when you have, like, half a dozen in a row that were just terrible. It says, and I always have this fear of, like, what if I've read all the good books that I would like and there's no more good ones to discover ever again, She's like, and then of course I do finally find one that breaks the slump. But yeah, that's always a fear that after you've been through a few that just didn't do it for you. It's like, yeah, what if I never have that? Oh my gosh, this book was so amazing when you get to the end of it for a new book ever again, right? Yeah. All right, so yeah, the second thread here. Okay, so that's an empty needle there, so I'll just use it. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, I find when I have a lot of live needles and they stack on top of each other, sometimes you tend to unthread as you're pulling threads out because of the needles at the bottom of the stack can tend to come unthreaded as you're pulling sometimes. So yeah, sometimes when I'm done, I'll have 4 or 5 empty needles left on that magnet there. Yeah, plus saying this time of year I have lots of movies I want to watch. Yeah, I love Christmas movies, so. Yeah, it was funny when my son was little. He was like 6 or something one year, and he says, Mom, can we watch the Squeaky Nose Show? And I'm like, the Squeaky Nose Show? What is he talking about? And then I realized he meant the old Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the stop motion animation one. Yeah, because his nose makes his squealing, right? When it's glowing. So yeah, it was funny. He was like in kindergarten or something. But yeah, it took me a minute to figure out what he was asking for. Yeah, he couldn't remember Rudolph, but he remembered the squeaky nose, so yeah. So this one, I believe, is, if I remember correctly, is pretty short when I parked it. Yeah, so I'm going to get a leftover bit of thread to do these other stitches up here. I have quite a few of this color to use up, so no problem. Oh, look at that, I've done 1, 2, 3. Yeah, there was I got on this mailing list of mail order stuff, and yeah, every year they have a different huge inflatable, like 14-foot high. So they had Rudolph one year, Clarice. You could also get a Bumble. Yeah, which I thought was pretty cool. Yeah, not many people on my street, they don't seem to do the inflatables, but other parts of town do. There was one that was near my son's old elementary school for Halloween. They had a little spider with a top hat on, yeah. I called him the fancy spider, and my son called him the magician spider because, yeah, magicians and top hats, right? Yeah. There's one house in town that actually does the Christmas lights that they go with the music. Yeah. they use a little shortwave radio so the neighbors don't have to listen to the music all night long, but they have like a little sign, tune your radio to such and such a channel. And yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah, they do it every year. Yeah, of course, these days with LED lights, it doesn't cost as much, because I remember there were a few places on the island when I was growing up that did amazing light displays, and often they had boxes for donations to help them upkeep it, because the light bill, you know, the electricity bill would be, yeah, cha-ching. Yeah, because those old incandescent bulbs, they drew a lot of power. I think they said they were only like 10% efficient or something. Like 90% of the energy they drew ended up as heat and not light. Yeah. Whereas, of course, new, you know, modern technology, the bulbs are extremely efficient. They don't get hot anymore. I remember my mom almost started a fire once because she would dry her pants on this big globe light we have because it got hot, and she'd drape the wet jeans over it. But yeah, we were gone for hours and we came home and it was like, what's that, you know, burning smell? And she'd singe the pants, and thank goodness we weren't any later, because I think if we'd been even 10 minutes later, they probably would have caught on fire. Yeah, it was not the smartest idea. Yeah, I used to put wet stuff on the radiator, but that had an auto shut off, right? When it got too hot, it would automatically shut off. But yeah, with a light, that doesn't have that feature. So yeah, it would just keep going until, yeah, like I said, it was smoldering, but thankfully hadn't actually burst into flames yet, but I think it was pretty close. Yeah, it's like somebody said, any machine is a smoke machine if you operate it wrong enough. Yeah, my last stand mixer, that's how it died. I was mixing bread and then I kind of went, you know, what's that smell? Like, I'm not baking anything yet, so why is there a burning smell? And I come out and there's smoke pouring out of the motor. It's like, oh, that's why. Yeah, it's done. Yeah, that was an old KitchenAid I wasn't very happy with. It used to be the gold standard, you know, but yeah, the one I bought was garbage. Within a couple of months of having it, you could hear the motor slipping as it was mixing. Yeah, it was not good. So I now use Breville mixers. Yeah, I really like those because I got one once for free with Air Miles, and that one held up for about 3 years. Whereas the KitchenAid one I had died just over a year, you know, right when it was out of warranty, because of course, right? But yeah, the Breville one lasted me 3 years, and I made bread like a couple times a week for like a year. So yeah, it kept up really well. Yeah. Because yeah, when they say a year, they probably expect you to use it maybe once a week, you know, not 3 or 4 times a week like I was. So yeah. Yeah, I remember the pandemic, everybody started making bread. And I said, well, I made bread before it was cool. Yeah. I've been making bread for like 20 years by then. Yeah. I can't do it kneading by hand though. Yeah, I have joint pain and my wrists just cannot take it. Yeah. So, but yeah, my grandma, they had 5 kids. She had 5 kids, and so she made 7 loaves of bread a day by hand. Yeah. Everybody got their own loaf of bread, right? Yeah, her, my grandpa, and all the kids got their own. They were smaller loaf pans, but yeah. And yeah, no mixer. She made it all by hand. So yeah, my dad said she had the strength of a linebacker, right? He said he remembers one time some boys were climbing the tree in their front yard and like chucking stuff at the house, and you know, she comes out and, you kids get down from there, right? And oh, did I do the wrong one? What am I looking at? No, hang on a sec. Oh yeah, I did this one. Okay. No, I just didn't mark them. There we go. Okay. And yeah, she's, you know, she says, you boys get down from there. And they kind of like, well, what are you going to do about it, lady? Right? And he says, so she grabs one of his guys' ankles. She kind of pulls him right out of the tree. They couldn't believe it. Yeah. Oh, no, I did something else. Let me see. Oh, no, I did these. That's what I did. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I did those. And actually, this one is not done yet. I don't think. This one, I still have one part. Yeah, okay, that's what I did. I was doing this one. That's what I get, talking while I stitch, right? Yeah. And so when I went to put this back in the thread card, I went, wait a minute, this don't match. Something is wrong here, but we're good. We got it figured out. So there we go. Again, these colors are so similar that if I do a couple wrong, not the end of the world. Yeah. Yeah, my grandma's 91 now, so obviously those days are behind her, but yeah. When she was younger. She's still pretty active. She walks to the grocery store almost every day to pick up fresh produce to cook with and stuff. Yeah, they all know her, so. She has to use a walker to do it, but she still does it, so yeah. Oh, it just started snowing out there. Yeah, it dropped a bunch on us the other day. Yeah, it was so extremely slippery. My husband actually drove me to do errands because it was, yeah, it was really nasty. And like I said, I can drive in this, but I don't like doing it, so yeah. We actually went around one corner and kind of almost drifted into the snowbank. So it's like, whoa. And you could see the tracks where somebody else had done it before us because, yeah, it was really slippery. But he said, don't slam on the brakes, don't jerk the wheel, and generally you'll be okay. Because that's usually what the problem is people panic. And, yeah, they make sudden movements. And on ice, that's not a good idea. Yeah. Yeah, so this thread I'm going to probably travel back and forth a bit. Like I said, I may have to add a second because I think it's going to run out before I run out of stitches to do here is probably what's going to happen. No prob. Oh, wait a sec. What have I done here? Oh, I think I missed some. Yeah, I just realized. Okay, I did make a mistake with that earlier one. I probably tied it off too soon. Yep. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Just gonna double check with my good ones. Yeah, those ones above are colored in as if they're done, and they're not. So that's the mistake I made. It happens. I definitely am not perfect, so yeah, that's what I did. I think I was looking at the wrong color while I was, yeah, that's what I did. So these two right here, I have to still stitch. Yeah, that's the mistake I made. Okay, no prob. Yeah, I think I probably picked up one thread while looking at the pattern for another thread, and I may have stitched those wrong, but you know what, honestly, like I said, all the colors are so close that I'm going to leave it. Yeah. If I did it wrong, it's going to be hard to tell. So, and again, this is kind of more background to these flowers. Yeah. Like I often say, if it was like in the peacock's eye or something that was a major focal point, I would fix it if it was noticeable, but this is not. So I always say I call it personalization. Yeah, I think even if we use the same pattern, I think no two people will stitch one exactly alike, because this happens sometimes, right? Yeah. No worries. Close enough. Yeah, so I went up to do underneath the stitches right above and then realized the shape did not match, so I had made a mistake somewhere. Yeah, but now we are all good now. Okay, so yeah, now this is in the correct corner right here. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna do those and back down. I'm sure some of you noticed that I was making a mistake. Yeah, I always say with this method, I find I have fewer counting errors when I don't leave gaps, but let's face it, there are always going to be errors. Yeah, it happens. You just have to decide what you're going to do about it when they do occur. Oh, I felt so bad for somebody. They were doing this big, it wasn't a full coverage piece, but this big butterfly. And so it had like these lacy big wings and then the center body, and they miscounted. And so the body could not be centered between the wings. It was off by one stitch. Oh, yeah. And they just said, I know I could leave it, but I said it would drive me up the wall. Every time I looked at it, I would know it was wrong and it would irritate me, so they had to restart. And I was just like, oh, that's just heartbreaking. Yeah. As a fellow stitcher, you know, I feel your pain. Because yeah, like they said, like, it's like the very center of the piece. It's not something you can easily fudge. Yeah. Okay, so I have less than 400 stitches to go, because 176,000 is what will complete this pass. So like I said, obviously I won't get them done today, but, or at least not in this session, but we are getting closer. Yeah, so there's a stitching group I'm in. They were doing a 12 days of Christmas little challenge if you wanted to. So they had, like, you know, partridge in a pear tree, and then it said, you know, stitch something that has either a tree or a bird on it, you know. And I'm like, well, my project definitely has a bird, you know. And it was like, so stitch, you know, 100 stitches on that project and stitch an extra, you know, 100 penalty if it didn't meet that criteria. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, but mine definitely has bird, has a bird. So Has two birds, in fact. One of them is a big fancy peacock. Yeah. Oop, that felt wrong. Yeah, there we go. Could feel there was a knot trying to form on the other side. That is not right. So yeah, like when I made that mistake earlier, I kind of looked and I couldn't really see, but I figured if I had missed any stitches, I would come to it eventually, figure it out then, which I did, so. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'll manage 200 this session. That still will be a pretty good number. Okay. Okay, so I have 300 stitches left to complete this pass. Now $2.99. That piece was short, I forgot. Pop the needle right off. No, this thread lasted longer than I thought it would. Might even get these last stitches out of it, who knows? That's always nice when it works out like that. Well, I said I wouldn't work to 200, but actually, I think I will. I had a whole bunch of the same color in a row, so that, of course, yeah, increased my speed. Alright, so yeah, why don't I just finish up these ones, or this strand, and then I think that's where I'm going to take a break for today. So yeah. One of my legs is falling asleep, so I'm going to need to get up and move around to get my circulation going again. So yeah, I'm kind of stitching over that grid line, but right at the edge I don't worry so much because there's a big piece there to hold on to when I want to pull it out later, so that'll be easy. Yeah. I also try not to stitch over them because I kind of like being able to still see the grid lines even in already stitched areas. That way if there's any mistakes, it can still be fixed, because I've had the occasional stitch that I missed crossing. And so yeah, if the grid is still on, it is easier for me to find where those are. I actually think I can get the last 2 stitches there out of that, so I might as well. Then I don't have to park a new one below for when I do the next pass. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today, and hope to see you here next time. Thanks everyone. Bye.